If you recall the battle over Obamacare, back when that was the first thing that Obama tried to accomplish back starting in 2009, it was widely said, and I think correctly so, that the Republicans wanted that effort to fail because there were a lot of Americans who could benefit substantially from the passing of a good national health care policy. This is a problem that besets the United States. From the beginning, it was a huge issue in the beginning of the Clinton administration in '93. So here we are 15 years later, and it's still a big issue. And it's even worse. We got something like, what was it, 50,000 additional Americans died every year because Americans don't have the kind of healthcare security that the citizens of every other affluent democracy have. And we were spending roughly twice as much for healthcare as anybody else. I mean, maybe a little less than twice as much in some cases, but other people were paying a lot less and getting a lot better system. And it was a big problem in the country, too, because the government was getting bankrupted by the rising cost of health care. The businesses were having difficulties, and families were going bankrupt over health care costs in a way that wasn't happening anywhere else. So a lot of people would have gotten a benefit that they would recognize and appreciate if the Democrats were able to, well, if the Congress and the president, bipartisanly even, could deliver a decent program. And Obamacare was not the greatest, but given a lot of the limitations, it was definitely a step in the right direction. A lot fewer people completely uninsured. So people said that the Republicans are trying to kill this thing because they don't want the people to see that the government can be doing constructive things to their benefit. The idea was, just to put it in other words, it's kind of incredible to think of. What's incredible to think of is that this is actually a successful gambit. They didn't want the people to believe in the government and its ability to be an instrument of doing them good. The Republicans at this point were no longer a party that was interested in doing the people good. So stopping millions of people who are uninsured from getting a degree of health insurance safety, a lot less stress in their lives, fewer families going bankrupt. That was not a positive for them. They said, let's see if we can stop this thing. And then when they didn't stop it, the famous repeal, repeal, repeal. I mean, the country had gone through all the processes we're supposed to go through in elections and debates and otherwise, and came up with a decision. But this Republican Party was not willing in whatever it was, 2011, 12. They weren't willing to say, okay, well, we fought that fight, we lost it. No, they wanted it to be only a temporary defeat because they weren't willing to accept a defeat. It's really, on the face of it, a very un-American way to behave. Even apart from the whole thing about Obviously, we had a big national problem that needed to be addressed, and this was a reasonable and very moderate way of addressing it. But in addition to that, when we've settled an issue, we've settled the issue. That's what the politics is for. They lost it. Somehow Obama eventually got it to squeak through. And they still wanted to repeal. It's become more popular, but the propagandists on the right, death panels and all that crap, they were pretty successful in getting people to be suspicious of it. And at first it wasn't popular. But anyway, that was just indicative of one big piece of the whole Republican approach to having a Democratic president. They wanted to obstruct Obama no matter what he proposed. Again, not a legitimate position for an opposition party to take. Really, the obligation is quite manifestly to do something different from that. You know, if you want to work to negotiate compromises so that values of interest to the conservatives were more represented than just passing the proposals of the Democratic president. That was not what they were interested in. They wanted him to fail. We know that. That was their priority. So they obstructed him across the board, and Obama's way of dealing with that was so ineffectual that he ended up being sort of isolated in his presidential castle, able to have a role only in foreign policy and the things he could do with executive action, because the Republicans were able to have a policy of across-the-board obstructionism and benefit politically. Now, that shows two things. One, it shows the utter moral bankruptcy of the Republican Party. It was already evident before Trump came in. You know, if you're a patriot, you don't want the president to fail, particularly when the whole national and global economies are on the edge of a precipice. The abyss yawns and you want the president to fail? If the president fails, we only have one of them at a time. The whole country fails. And tens of millions of Americans would suffer. No real patriot would ever want to do that. But not only was the Republican Party morally bankrupt, but the Democratic Party was... there are various words that come in here about how they dealt or failed to deal with obstructionism. The policy of obstructionism should have been one that the Democrats could use as a cudgel to punish the Republicans. But for example, in the campaign of 2010, and then later in the campaign of 2014, the Republicans benefited from their policy of obstruction. They had so crippled Obama that that people saw him and blamed him for that there wasn't more good things getting done. So the paradox of Republican obstruction or obstructionism is that on the one hand, the Republicans are using whatever power they have to make the president unable to accomplish things. And then they benefit politically for the president's failure to accomplish things. There's something wrong with that picture. The whole campaigns should have been run on the basis of obstructionism is absolutely indefensible in a major political party in the American system. It runs contrary to all the ideas of what the government's supposed to be doing, even people of different parties. But the Democrats never made issues of those things, and the Republicans were able to benefit by making Obama look ineffectual. Well, a few minutes ago, I was looking on the front page of the New York Times online. And apparently, Obama is suffering politically from the inability. The public doesn't see him as getting much accomplished. I mean, he would. I don't. I mean, there's some problem about how much do they recognize about what he was able to accomplish in his first 2 years. But with the Republicans now owning, controlling the House of Representatives, nothing gets through Congress if it doesn't get through the House of Representatives. Nothing. And the Republican House of Representatives is not dominated by the people who might be willing to work with Democrats, or Democrats in the House, or Democrats controlling the Senate, or the Democrat who's president of the United States. It's not controlled by them. It's controlled by the people who are willing to obstruct important things. Can hardly keep the government open. Well, so far we haven't closed, but yeah, it's a close call. They were willing to have us default on our debt back a year ago. They're willing to obstruct our giving aid to Ukraine, which is one of the major accomplishments of the Biden presidency on the world stage, the way we've been able to utilize our weaponry, our leadership of the Western Alliance, to make America's major adversary fail in what the values of democracy and decency and human rights require that he fail. Obama looks bad if he's not succeeding. Well, there are some lessons here. I think that the Democrats, and Biden in particular, need to campaign, if not directly about obstruction. This is what the Republicans are obstructing us. Okay, I think we should throw that in. This is what we will accomplish if you give us a Congress in which this Republican obstructionism isn't able to stop us. And then lay out a whole gamut of things. I expect that Biden probably has the intention of doing a lot of wonderful things, some of which he actually accomplished in his first 2 years. But give him a House of Representatives and a Senate where the Republicans cannot obstruct. And here are what we would accomplish. And present it in such a way that the American people salivate at the thought that their government could get some good things done for them. I don't know exactly what should be on that list, but a list could be generated probably pretty quickly, and it could be presented in a compelling way. And that's what we should do, because the paradox of Republican obstruction is that the Democrats have let them get away with being rewarded, benefiting from a political stance which is so contrary to their moral and political responsibilities that they should pay a big penalty with the American electorate rather than benefit. It's not Biden's fault that this House of Representatives is this way. And as long as it's this way, here are the good things that we can't get done right now, but we can if you give us the right Congress. Please subscribe if you're so moved. Please take a look at the much bigger picture that I paint on my website, abetterhumanstory.org, which clarifies a lot about the nature of the forces that are embattled today, not only in this American crisis of democracy versus fascism, but in the global historical crisis of, will we get our act together so we can survive as human civilization on this planet? Or will the human story, the story of human civilization on Earth, culminate in some inflicted catastrophe. Thank you.